Welcome to the show, Shane. Now, Shane has over 20 years of renewable energy project development experience. He began consulting to Climate Capital in 2016, ultimately moving into the CEO role in 2020 and developing a project pipeline valued at more than 400 million. Since 2001, Shane's experience extends across the asset development cycle and includes leading acquisition, design, environmental approval, commercial activities on behalf of wind, solar, biomass and hydropower developers. Welcome, Shane.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Pretend we don't know what that means.
Okay.
Tell us a bit about you and your personal career and how you got into the renewable energy space.
Sure. Thank you. I was born in Canada, and I did an environmental science degree when I got into uni, and decided to come over to Australia for 3 months to go backpacking. Made my way down to Hobart and didn't leave. So ended up getting a job here, and it was 2001 when that happened, early 2001, and just fell in love with the place and started practicing in my field as well too, with a small aspiring mining company, and as part of that they required a power source for a potential mine site. They were looking at a mini hydro / wind as a bit of a hybrid project, and I thought that was pretty cool. So that was 2001, and I helped a bit with that. Then some legislation came in around that time, which provided a renewable energy target for Australia. And suddenly there was a market for these kinds of projects. And it was all very new for Australia. And it was exciting time. So from there, I kind of worked in small companies, development companies, a lot of privately owned ones, small groups, and tried to work in the kind of concept to construction phase. So finding projects, designing them, bringing them to financial close, and then handing them to people who knew how to build them, which wasn't me.
Oh, great. And just on your point about visiting Tasmania and never leaving, we have a way of doing that here. Yes. What really, if people listening have considered moving to Tassie, what made you decide to stay?
I'm not a big city guy. I enjoy the visits and I enjoy everything that they offer, but I don't want to live in or near one. I saw my father commute for over an hour one way every day, and I knew that's not what I want to do. So the pace around Hobart and just Tassie more generally was very comfortable. It still has a lot to offer, and being here for over 20 years, I've seen that increase quite a bit too. So for all those reasons, I think I thought, well, I'll stick around a bit longer. Melbourne's only a 55-minute commute away, so we take advantage of that.
Yeah, great. And so can you tell us a little bit about how or when the vision for Climate Capital came about?
So Climate Capital was formed a while ago as a company that could provide some renewable energy project developments. And I think it was on the shelf for a few years while politically, I think there was a few turbulence. And then in 2016, there was a resurgence. The original founder and his son really kicked it off and raised some capital to really create this company that could provide something. They had a good idea of where they wanted to go, and they were allowed that freedom by the shareholders at the time, who are still the shareholders of the company, to explore that, and that's been fantastic. So that's how it really kicked off. And I came in early as a consultant and then an employee, and in 2020 came on as CEO, and we've really refined what we're looking to do, and we had to with COVID anyways. How we do it as well. Everything had to be relooked at, but we did, and we came out ahead. So in the last 4 years, 3 years actually, we've developed 4 projects, and we've got a few more on the books for this year too. So it's really ramping up right now. And I can go on and on about these projects and why they're amazing, but I might save that for another discussion one day.
Well, congratulations on the success so far. Touching on your experience and, with over 2 decades of experience, can you share how your vision for a sustainable future has evolved over time and how it informs your leadership at Climate Capital?
It's a good question. It's a pretty big question as well, too. I didn't realize that over 20 years ago I was getting into sustainability, but I was. When you dip your toe in there, you have to decide whether you're going to go in or not. I would say that it took me a while to really jump in, but once you do, you realize that there are so many facets of sustainability that we need to address, and it influences so many parts of our life as well too: education, health, transport, family planning, purchasing of goods and services, things like that. It's really a culmination of small decisions daily at every scale of your life. So for me, I wanted to pick a part of that which I thought I could do my best and provide the best value. I've got a science background. I would love to do a little bit more of that one day, but right now I've certainly found my area and the team that can provide that as well too. There's been a lot of significant advances, I guess, in sustainability practices over the last kind of 5 to 10 years, and they're really out there. They're everywhere, and even I was mentioning that yesterday we were at a climate investor forum in Melbourne, second one of its kind, and it was fantastic. Some of the entrepreneurs there, they've got a passion. They've got a real desire to make change. It's coming from a great place, and they're just great minds. But what you see with them is that they're putting the time in. They don't come up with something and 3 months later pitch it. Some of these people have worked on things for 5 years because they knew that it would their light would add to the sum of light, if you can. So they wanted to be a part of that journey, and it was just really wonderful to see a lot of nature-based initiatives as well too, that really kind of come together and form what sustainability is. So my team, we focus on one particular area, of course, and that's renewable energy. But we're not constrained to just that. It's just that's what's working for us today.
Sure. Watch this space.
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Now, you've mentioned your motivation to accelerate the transition to a low carbon economy. Can you tell us about a pivotal moment in your career that, really solidified that mission?
Yes. There's so many times when you get struck with information, where you just say, I've got to do something. And it can be as simple as a documentary on Netflix, which the cynic and everyone says, oh, they're just after something else. But, there's some things you can't make up. And if it makes you think, then sometimes it doesn't get shaken away very easily. So lots of little points in my life where that's happened, but probably one of the bigger ones, and it took me a while to really reflect on this when I thought about it earlier, was during the period of time when Tony Abbott and Joe Hockey were in Canberra and in power. There was a lot of misinformation being provided by them and their team, and it was a very difficult time for people in my industry, and just for people I think that had similar values to me, to listen to that. And there was irrefutable evidence, science-based evidence, which they were speaking against, and it didn't make sense. I thought common sense would prevail, and it didn't. So it was times like that that I really kind of re-energized and just thought, this needs to change, and there's so many people around me that believe that as well too, and I think I'm going to be part of that. So yeah, I think it probably was a bit of a turning point for me around there. Since then, I've also, maybe it was well timed, but at that point in my life, I was also looking to get involved in other things, not just me and not just my family, but other things. So I think I started to kind of spread my wings a bit, and I looked at helping out I was part of Sustainable Living Tasmania for a while, and that really brought me down to that grassroots level of what's being done there, what's working and what isn't. It's important to know both of those things and not ignore either. looking quite close at homelessness as well too, and helping out with that just locally, and just trying to understand reasons why. And I think when we talk about a set of values and sustainability, I think the values are up here, and sustainability is one big part of it. But there's other things that often come along with it, and that's where I've come from, I think. Also, just STEM education more generally for younger people, particularly for female students as well too. That was an area that we know we need to focus on, and so with the impact investors that we have at Climate Capital, and with the resources we had, I was allowed to explore those, go to different schools, and I still do go to high schools and do sessions of speaking, or over a period of weeks work with them on certain projects, and it's hard, and it's confronting, because they're a heck of an audience. They let you know right away what they're thinking. So,
Yeah.
it's been a great experience, really great.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many articles out there and initiatives that are trying to attract that next generation of boys and girls into STEM-oriented careers, of which most of them are not even around yet. I have no idea what gone are the days that you could say my son is going to be because who knows?
No, you have to ask, what do you want to achieve, as opposed to what do you want to be? And it's a bigger question, and they don't have the answers, and they shouldn't.
No. And, I shared recently on LinkedIn a video that was compiled really sweetly, I thought, and it was just more around careers that have been predominantly male dominated, and just, highlighting women who are in those roles, so that the younger generation females can, look at that and think they can do that. Because kids, what I took from the video is kids don't know unless they can see it. They don't know it's an option, right? So it goes both ways. Absolutely.
I agree.
Under your leadership, Shane, Climate Capital has successfully invested in and developed significant projects. You touched on it earlier. Can you walk us through the strategic process behind selecting the investments and ensuring that they align with both financial and environmental objectives?
Sure. So I guess nuts and bolts to our strategy is that we've got what we call bread and butter projects, which is never bread and butter. I mean, it's never a template. It's never the same, right? They're always different. But what we know we can do, and that we're pretty good at and are getting better at, are a certain size. We call it sub 5 megawatts, or under 5,000 kilowatts of installed capacity through solar farms and battery storage as well now. We look for opportunities where we can build and design fit-for-purpose projects, and the purpose is the counterparty that we're providing it for. Now we've got a number of those that we're working with today as operational projects. We've got a mine in WA, it's a sand mine. We've got a Bitcoin mining operation in Whyalla. We've got an abattoir in Junee, and soon we'll have a green hydrogen electrolyzer facility in Bell Bay. Those are our 4 projects right now. But for each of those, we have investment dollars that come from our shareholders, our impact investors. We go through our network and find opportunities where we can meet our mission statement, which is decarbonize the grid and support Australian businesses. We pull together a design, put together a business case for it, and with the investment criteria that we know we have in front of us, put them in front of our investors and see if they want to invest. Once they say yes, we build them, we operate them, we hold them under a fund, and we manage that for the asset life. And the asset life can go anywhere from 25 to 40 years if it's operated well and maintained well. We sign long-term agreements with these companies. But I guess what probably differentiates us a bit is that we take our time doing it. We learn about the company, we learn about where their business drivers are and where their business sensitivities are, partly for our risk assessment. Do we want to be involved with them for 10 plus years? But also to understand are we designing the best system for them? Because sometimes the best system is not the biggest, or not today. And so having a plan, not a set and forget, but rather a program of work that we can maintain, I think provides them the best value, and provides us with that feeling of pride that we actually did something good. So that's how we do it. Long-term agreements. We build the relationship, we build trust, we do all that work up front and for free, and our partners or our counterparties that are taking the electricity only start to pay from the day we start to generate.
Yeah, fantastic. And reflecting on the projects that you have developed, which one stands out to you as particularly impactful and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose they all have really good attributes, and I love to say we get to learn from each one, but then there's that little bit of a, "Oh, yeah, but that's a hard lesson, that one," and it's just how it goes, and that's fine. But I think as an all-rounder, there's an abattoir in Juni that we were introduced to by some development partners in New South Wales. That was during COVID as well, and we really wanted this project, but we didn't have a bubble at the time, and so we worked with our co-developers there as best we could to support them to do the work that they needed to do. But we could only source people to do that work from certain areas, and that changed throughout that period of time as well too. So we had to change with that. But the premise of that one was that this abattoir's primary customer or largest customer is, let's just say, one of the larger grocery store chains in Australia, and they are now looking at the grocery store chain is looking at their Scope 3 emissions. So they go down to the abattoirs at that level and says, what are you doing in this area? What can you provide us? How are you offsetting carbon? What's your plan? And I think there are a lot of wonderfully run, family-owned companies out there who don't have a plan because they haven't needed to. And when this is put in front of them, especially by their primary customer, it can be a scary time. So what we do is we help with that. We're not a silver bullet, but we certainly can help with some of that, and we can take the risk out of it for them. And that's what I enjoy doing. I enjoy seeing the surprise on their face when they realize, oh, it works like that. Okay. And then, there's a sigh of relief, and then we keep moving. So for this one, they needed to offset some of their emissions, their grid supplied emissions, which are hard to tally and also then hard to offset. It usually costs money. So we provided a fit for purpose design for a solar farm. We built that solar farm and we commissioned the solar farm. Now it's been running since mid-June last year. And over that time, they have offset something like 45% of their emissions from taking about 45% of their electricity demand from the solar farm. It's at a competitive price, so they are saving, and I would say around 6 figures per annum. So it's been a really big win. You don't have to be a greenie, to look at that and say that's worth doing. But luckily, if you are, it's still worth doing. So we were able to work with them at the pace that they needed to work at, and us, to get to that point. And I guess it's at the forefront of my mind because now we're looking at actually expanding that facility because they've increased their electrical demand. So they've come back to us and said, could you provide some more? And so we're going to look at a little more solar and a little more battery storage there as well. So I think all around it's a great case study. It's not the biggest, it's not the best in some metrics, but for us, we quite like that we were able to help.
Yeah. And often, education is key. They don't know what, they would have had a big surprise coming at them with some of the questions, posed. So manageable chunks.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, leading an innovative organisation in a sector like renewable energy comes with its challenges. Could you share a significant challenge you've faced at Climate Capital and how you navigated it?
It's hard, I guess, to pick one particular challenge, but more generally, I guess on a company level, there's always challenges. The challenges that we're running into today are the ones that we wanted and we talked about 2 years ago. the growth challenges, which is fantastic. So it's you mentioned the pipeline in the opening intro there. We still have that pipeline, and that value changes, goes up and down all the time. We put a little extra effort some days on finding new projects, and other days we hold back, and we have to, because one of our challenges is capital. We know we have it. We can get it from our investors. We can get it from other partnerships that we have, and we know what the investment criteria is. But aligning up everything at the right time is challenging, and that's our work, and that's what we do. So capital is one thing, not so much finding it, but finding it at the right time. So we work on that. I'd say the resourcing side, and especially human resourcing, is also a side which can be challenging. We don't want to grow a business in terms of people. We want to grow it in terms of value, and however you define value. But in order to take those steps, sometimes you need to get more people in, and I'd like to get them in at just the right time. Not too late, but not too early. So I think yeah, again, this is a growing challenge, and one that we're faced today. So that's another one. And I guess behind that as well too, when you're growing a small business, you manage it a certain way, but as the business gets larger, as you employ more people, and I see it as employing families, because it really does have an impact on families, then we need to set up more procedures, more policies about how we're going to operate and how we're going to do well, not just for our investors, but for our employees, who are also our shareholders, by the way. So it's building out that infrastructure, whether it's people and equipment and everything else we need to do, what we call our core work, I guess. But it's also ensuring that we've got a proper foundation for business to continue to grow as and when we need it. So all of those are challenges. They all take time. We want to be perfect on them, and we never will be. But just having the right team, I think, around the table helps that go by.
Absolutely. And that crystal ball that still hasn't been released. Yes. We could all do with it at times. Yes. So that's a really good segue, though, when you talk about, hiring at the right time and getting the right people on board. And it's not just, the bums on seats, so to speak. It's ensuring that everyone aligns, including their broader families and the like. So in your experience, what core qualities that would align with your company values do you believe are essential for someone joining your team?
I would say, I'd probably start by saying just amazing people are amazing to have around you. It'd be hard for me, and I wouldn't want to, as an individual, write a list and say, this is what you have to follow, because I don't know. I'm just as I'm just as human as the next. But from the little experience I have as a very young fella, I would say that the people would need to understand what we're trying to do before understanding how we're going to do it, because how we do things may change as things go on into the future. But more generally, that mission statement that we've got of decarbonize the grid and support Australian businesses, that's been surprisingly powerful for us. It's nice to have a few words and chuck them up on the wall, and you feel like you're an adult now, but it really does help focus what you're going to do. So knowing that, I think we're looking for people who have a passion for renewable energy, I guess more specifically, but also more generally wants to make a change in that sustainability journey for everyone. I think probably down to a little more detail, we're a small team, and we're going to be a small team for a while. I don't see us growing to large numbers. We would need someone who is comfortable working in small team environments, kind of thrives with that, and can work independently. They will always have autonomy and empowerment to do what it is that they do, but they will also need to look at all the other requirements of the business and decide, hey, I'm going to help out with that. It's not my PD, but it needs
Yeah.
doing. We all do that, and I could give you some examples. I probably won't, but I could give you some examples about what I still do in the office, because we don't have any cleaning staff, and it's just what you do. So things like that. I think we're just looking for someone who wants to come in and make a difference with us. Everyone has their own skill set, and we meld our skill sets together and just produce the best product we can. So everyone's a team, is a decision maker in the team. So we sit around the table and we talk about what we're going to do, whether it's a policy on transport, who's going to pay for what and what's reasonable and what's not reasonable, or whether it's are we going to pursue that $9 million project because sure, it's going to make a couple of bucks, but we don't really like the sustainability record of this company. There's all of that gets talked at the same table.
Amazing. Open table discussions for everyone. It seems so simple, but it's so rare. So hats off to you guys for maintaining that.
Thank you.
When it comes to people, like you said just now, everyone has their own skills, their hidden talents, their pros, their cons. When it comes to transferable skills, I'm a huge believer in looking past a resume where I guess possible. There are some situations where you need specific degrees and you can't get past that. But when it comes to renewable energy or your workplace as a whole, what kind of transferable skills or unique perspectives do you think could work well, or from which industries, if we're thinking outside the box when it comes to attracting people?
Yeah, I thought about this a few weeks ago. Somebody had said to me, what careers or what degrees would kind of move me into the renewable energy field. And I thought about it, and really almost any of them. I mean, part of our strategy sessions, we've got everybody in the team here around the table, and it's only 4 of us right now. We'll ask our chairman to come in as well too. He's got many more years than me of experience, life and work experience, and valuable too. So I'm glad we've got him. Then I'll ask our law firm, our lawyers, to come in as well too, because it turns out lawyers are people, and they have some good ideas. So we'll have 2 or 3 of our lawyers around the table, because they come from different sectors, property and commercial and things like that. And then we're lucky enough to have a fantastic accountant, third-party accountant, that we work with as well too, and so we invite him. And if anybody else wants to come along, we'd probably invite them too, because what comes out at the table is fantastic. It's questions, it's comments, it's raising risks that either we've thought about and dismissed, but maybe shouldn't have, or never thought about at all. And all of that needs to be on the table. So when you talk of transferable skills, my lazy answer is everything is, but really, if you're an accountant, then you are absolutely needed in this industry. If you're a scientist or a project manager, you're absolutely needed here. If you're, heaven forbid, a lawyer, if any of those, they're all part of the process. And depending on who you are, I find that's really where your value is for us. If you want to be part of the decision making, you're welcome to be. And I just find some amazing sides of people come out in those conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. And even that's what I like about interviewing candidates. Just hearing how they explain what their job is. You could line up 3 accountants for that, example, and they would all tell you their job in 3 different ways. So it's all a different perspective, isn't it?
It is.
Once on board, how do Climate Capital support the professional development and growth of its employees? Now, I know you mentioned there's a team of 4 at the moment, so it might not be, the same structure as a larger organization, but even those transitioning from different sectors or early career stages, what kind of professional development can you offer?
Yeah, and harking back to my career, I'd say I received more training and exposure in those larger companies than the smaller ones, and you can't not. It was fantastic. I was with Hydro Tasmania Consulting, which is in Truro, or I think it's still in Truro, and that was a great experience. That was 2.5 years, and I always had my hand in the air for training because they were offering. I was with Transcend for a period as well, and consulted to some other larger companies around Tassie, and it's wonderful when you reach that point that you can offer so many different kinds of advancements, I guess, both professional and personal. So for us as a small company, the reality is we are limited in what we can offer today when it comes to new training. The training is on the ground, it's with us, and it's absolutely side by side. Anyone at whatever, if there's no hierarchy, so really practiced in the office, to be honest, it's around the table, but everyone's around the table. Everyone has the discussion. Everyone contributes as much as they can, and everyone learns, I guess, from doing those things as well too. So, from my perspective, we are now at that point of growth where we are considering, okay, what skills do we need that we don't have? Who can we train if we have somebody on staff now that we can train, versus who would we hire in? Love the idea of hiring in someone who has the level of experience that we're looking for, but I think that's going to change, in 6 months or 12 months, that might not be sufficient as well. So I think your question is quite timely. We are looking at what we can do on particularly the, I guess, the advancement for different training that can complement, I guess, whatever skill set they've already got. I don't know what that is today, but we have pretty open discussions about what's available. We're just talking about what should be in the first aid kit this afternoon, and it's at that level already. So.
Yeah, fantastic. And we're so lucky, even being in Tasmania. You just came back from Melbourne, you mentioned previously, from a conference. So there, whilst you might not have formal training programs in-house, there are so many opportunities in industry if people want to, take it to the next level.
Certainly are, yeah.
What are some of the unique challenges you anticipate facing or have faced in your hiring within the renewable energy sector? And how do you think you can overcome these to attract the best talent?
Yes. Oh, that's a great question, Laura, and I was hoping you could help me with some of that. But my perspective today is that there's some amazing people out there with just so much to give, and some of them are working in large industry and they're doing that, or maybe not, and they should call me if they're not. But some of them aren't, and I think there are two groups. One who are already in the industry that we're in right now and could walk in and pick it up from day one with the experience they have, and others who have those transferable skills that you mentioned, who perhaps don't know that they can walk in today, but they can. And I think the challenges right now are ensuring that the message is getting across to all of those people, that this industry is growing very quickly. It's not just wind, it's not just solar, it's not, and you're not just part of a large company in order to make things happen. A lot of small companies do a lot of amazing things, and I probably wouldn't be talking to you if I wasn't so confident of where we're at right now. And as time goes on, my confidence increases, but I'm naturally a little bit risk adverse, so I wouldn't be I guess talking like this unless I was pretty comfortable with where we're at. So we really, as Climate Capital and as an industry, really need to put out to everybody that this is growing. We need more people to come in. It's an exciting, dynamic industry. You don't have to be young sometimes. It's just it's a wonderful place to be, and if you can pardon the pun, you do get energized when you're around your industry peers. I find it some of the industries out there are a little more competitive than what this is. We share openly a lot of information about projects and challenges and things like that with other companies who do things that are very similar to us. But we're not that competitive. We work together a lot more than anything else. So the challenge is, I think it's just getting that message out there to all of the potential candidates that the industry is growing. It needs skill sets across the board, and that's where we're coming in now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think probably where some organisations fall short is just they start looking for talent when they have the vacancy rather than having a more rounded view on talent pipelining. So, just keeping, we're so lucky with things like LinkedIn and the technologies that we have these days. So keeping future talent, in the back pocket and watching their careers, and it's pretty impressive what we can do. And it's just about hooking them at the right time, but also, bearing in mind that you can't take everyone, yes. Even though we'd like to, right? So it's the same in my industry. It's the same in so many industries. And striking when the iron's hot, but also just keeping people up to date with the cool things that you're doing will maintain that interest level, or, grow, and referrals will start coming through in no time.
Yeah, I agree. Could I pick up just something you said about the vacancy?
Yes.
That's absolutely true, what you said. And I was thinking about my situation with Climate Capital. The vacancy for us as things come along is usually just a skill set that we feel we need more of in the office today, as opposed to an individual or a position description. And please tell me if this is the wrong thing to say, but a position description that's such a prescriptive list of things for small companies. And I know you know this, and I know some others know this as well too. For small companies, it's just not that prescriptive. It's quite open to I guess to change, and what we might need today could change significantly in 6 to 12 months. So that dynamic kind of environment that we talk about, and we sometimes think it's fantastic. It's not always fantastic. It's hard. There's a lot of hard days. Yeah, but the wins are fantastic. When you can see something tangible, and then you look back and say, we did this. There was nothing here before, and now there is, and it's only because of us. Such a wonderful feeling, worth almost all of those hard days.
Yeah, 100%. Spot on. And so for those aspiring to join the renewable energy industry, what advice would you give them to prepare themselves to become a strong candidate?
I think there's a lot of literature out there to read about. There's a lot of opinions, but there's a lot of fact as well too. And I think just getting a baseline understanding of what's going on, where you'll be working or want to be working at least, is a good start. There are a lot of incentives that really drive projects and really create companies. Some of them wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the renewable energy target that was put into place by Howard government in 2001. But others will survive any blips in the radar because they're just so versatile, and they've got the right backing, they've got the right shareholders, and they've got a real eye to the future. So I think coming in without expecting you're going to know all that, but know enough to say, I want to be part of that journey. I understand that these are some of the drivers that make these things happen, and I'd like to learn about that, and I'd like to apply my time and my skill, which is of value, to your company achieving those goals. And I think that's just that positive attitude, to be honest.
Yeah, attitude and initiative, adaptability.
Yes.
Yeah. So looking towards the future and this, pick a time frame, what skills and competencies do you think will become increasingly important for professionals in your sector?
Yeah, that's a good question. Having kids as well too, I think about this question for so I can tell them what the question is and then tell them the answer, which they love hearing. I think look, I think a baseline of education and I would say real life experience, but don't mistake that with years on the planet. It's different. If you're working at Banjos for a couple of years, you're facing an amazing diversity of people and issues that you need to think on your feet. And if you're 14 years old and you can do that, then you can succeed in any industry. So, so I think, yeah, I think it's people skills that will always win the day. You have to have hard conversations sometimes with parties on the other side of the table. We still do too, despite how wonderful our industry can look. You have to have hard conversations with your team. You have to be the recipient, of some of those conversations, and you have to be able to keep moving. So I think just being aware and being ready and practicing. There are plenty of people out there that'll help you with that. But people skills will always take the day. I think besides that, there's a number of other areas in education experience, volunteering as well too. It's fantastic when you look back. I hated it when I was young. I'm like, why would I volunteer? I want to get paid. But to see 3 months of somebody giving up their time just to learn something tells you a lot about that person, a lot. And if they go ahead and they get a degree or something like that, and it's not in the area that you're hiring, they still got a degree. They learn to learn. So, there's a lot that can be read into that.
Yeah, I like that. What future directions or technologies in renewable energy are you most excited about? And how is Climate Capital positioning itself to leverage those opportunities?
Yeah. Great question, and hard to answer without just showing how nerdy I want to be. So in the short term, there are so many solutions now that we didn't have even 3 years ago, say 3 to 4 years ago, where we were looking at things, we thought that's the problem, maybe we could solve it this way, maybe this way, and 3 or 4 years later, it's just accelerated to the point where we've got the solution. It's almost an everyday piece of the puzzle. What's next? So it's very difficult to say in the short term what's going to be new. You really have to keep your finger on the pulse. We're looking at storage right now, but not large-scale storage. We're looking at smaller storage to back up some of our operating assets, to give them more value, to be able to provide more value to some of our customers, both current and future. They are, I would say, they're quick wins against other projects which aren't, but it's adding value to something you've already got. A lot of our projects, like I said, they're not set and forget. We continue to look at them, and we wait for the time that, for example, a battery comes in of a certain design and the price point comes down to this, and then we say, great, now we can do it. And yes, you could wait next year and it'll be down even further, but you got to draw a line in the sand at some point. So that's when we do something, and we're incentivized to do it. The more value we can add to the fund that we're building, the more value that Climate Capital can retain, and the more we can build. So we're constantly looking at new ways to do things. But anybody who knows me will get tired of hearing this, but one of my sayings, which I borrowed from a mentor of mine, Colin Patterson, who still works locally, is first to be second. And I still use that to this day. So once the technology is there and it's been proven, I'm right there. But we're not always going to be on the bleeding edge, maybe on the leading edge. Long term, there's a lot of different ways that this could go. Cold fusion would be fantastic. Solar space, that's an amazing area. They're actually now able, through microwaves, to transport electricity from solar panels in space to Earth. So, where do you put solar panels? Where the sun's always shining, in space. Things like that are just amazing. And 20 years ago, you'd be laughed out of anywhere if you said that. That's what you get.
Absolutely.
nowadays, not
Wow.
so unkooky. So that's an area that maybe in 10 years you and I will be talking about a bit more in detail. Just saying, I'm
Yeah.
looking for a solar space engineer if you know of any. So,
Okay. Know where to find them.
yes.
Now, just starting to wrap up here. So, as someone who has dedicated over 20 years to the renewable energy sector, what kind of legacy do you hope to leave, both with Climate Capital and in the broader industry?
So I knew you're going to ask me this, and I've been toiling over an answer, and I still don't think I have a good one because the idea of leaving a legacy sounds, for me, very egocentric, and it's not really where I like to play. But if I were to take a step back from it, I think my answer would be that I want to ensure that people know that they can work in a sector they can feel good about, and they can work in a manner that they're proud about as well. And that's working with kindness, and it's helping people step up. And I really do think that's something that we can do. And I think this sector really lends itself to that kind of behavior. So my hope is, yes, that if anyone is going to look back and say, who is he again? That they go, oh, that was the guy that demonstrated that we don't actually need to win every project. And we don't actually need to make that much money because what we're doing right now is in fact the best thing that we could be doing. So I think that's probably it.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you're definitely on that path.
Thank you.
And what advice? What advice would you give to emerging leaders in the renewable sector who aim to make a positive environmental and social impact?
I would say remember that phrase, emerging leader, because you absolutely are. And really, nobody can tell you that you're not because they don't know, and they won't know. So act under that banner for as long as you can. I think a leader, I'm pretty sure a leader doesn't just focus in on one area and puts the blinders on and gets things done, but they are persistent when they do find something that they think will work. So it's a real balance. I think checking in with people, asking them questions. What do you think about this area? Listening to their answer, actively listening, asking follow-up questions, things like that. You can learn so much from one individual that you never thought you would once you sit down and you let them talk. So I think emerging leaders in this sector, they can have a fantastic passion and come into it with very little experience, but they need to know that level of experience that's going to really bring them forward doesn't just come in university, or it doesn't just come in some kind of apprentice course, but it comes from stopping and talking to people and listening to them. There's a foundation that needs to be built before you can really start to move up, and I think that's something that they should focus on. And I sound like an old guy when I say that, but geez, it's true. It's true.
And you mentioned that you've had a mentor.
Yeah, I've had many.
Many? Great. I have as well, coaches, mentors, and like you just said, asking the questions and having candid conversations. You learn so much regardless if you're in the same industry or not. As a matter of fact, you can learn so much more by broadening your horizons and choosing a mentor that is in a completely different field.
Yeah.
How would one go about initiating those kind of connections, in your opinion?
The biggest move you can make is be really, really brave and just ask someone, how can I do this? Is it you? Is it somebody else? What do you think? The best way, I think, to build trust in someone and build a relationship is to ask them a favor. And asking them, can you help me with this? Because I really want to learn. It's hard to do, really, really hard. It takes years sometimes for someone to do just that one question, but that's the best way to do it. There are people out there who want to provide support and direction, and I would say I'm one of them as well. Whether you ask or not, I tend to give advice sometimes, but certainly I think find somebody that, even if you don't know them, just find somebody that you think is in the sector, that sounds good, that looks good. You can Facebook stalk them or get on LinkedIn and just ask them the question. I'd like to learn more. How can you help me if you can, please? And I think that goes a long way.
Sure does. Absolutely. And more than likely, if they can't help, they will know someone who can. So
Yes. Yeah.
I 100% agree with that advice. Fantastic. Well, that wraps up our conversation today, Shane. I'm so grateful that you took the time, join me today, and our listeners can learn more about climate capital and the renewable energy sector as a whole. Any closing comments?
Oh, look, any closing comments? Climate Capital is really happy to be based in Hobart. It was not an active move, but I'm really glad that we're here now. We do have projects all over the country, and we get a chance to travel all over the country, look at sites, meet people. So it's a small industry still, and if you want to come into the industry, you'll pick it up quickly, and you'll get to know the people quickly, and you'll get to see the opportunities quickly. So I think it's a great place to be. There's a huge future in it. And I would welcome anyone to come in, because if I can make it, anyone can.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Shane.
Thank you very much.
Shane Bartel from Climate Capital.